Let us pray. O God, our help in ages past, our hope for years to come, we thank you for the great gift given us in Duke University, for the vision and sacrifice of others who have preserved our school to this day. Bless, we pray, these our dear graduates, that this day of commencement shall be also one of gratitude and reflection, of celebration and rededication. And give us all a renewed sense of your good purpose behind our purposes, and also a renewed sense that even our grandest achievements are aspects of your grace. Amen.
Please be seated. It is my privilege to welcome you to this most auspicious commencement day. And first, to introduce our student speaker, I would like to call upon Richard White, Dean of Trinity College and Vice Provost for Undergraduate Education. As many of you know, after 17 years of distinguished service, Dean White is retiring from his administrative duties at the end of this year to return to full-time teaching and research as University Distinguished Professor of Botany. Dean White.
It's my pleasure to introduce the student speaker this morning, Adrienne Mason. She came to Duke from Anchorage, Alaska, majored in public policy sciences, minored in African American studies, and received a certificate in markets and management. Beginning an auspicious 4 years at Duke, she chose to elect the 20th Century America Focus Program. She was on the Council of Presidents in the first year, and over the years subsequently, she's spent a lot of time with Duke student government, liaisoning with the Board of Trustees, and although I can't verify it because of my seats at the basketball game, I understand that she adds pep to the pep with the rally, leading the group. So she's not only an astute politician, an activist undergraduate, but she is also a musician. It's a great pleasure then to introduce to you Adrienne Mason, who will say a few words on behalf of the undergraduate student body. Adrienne.
Good morning. Graduates, families of graduates, President Cohan, the Honorable President Carter, faculty, trustees, and guests. It is my pleasure and my honor to welcome you to the 145th commencement exercise at Duke University. It is with great pride that I extend a heartfelt congratulations to the graduating class of 1997. The immense academic endeavor you have completed is an outstanding accomplishment that exemplifies your current and future successes. In order to be here today as graduates of this distinguished institution, you have endured many long days and long nights of rigorous study and challenge in your academic pursuits. The expert tutelage of the esteemed Duke faculty yielded extremely high expectations. As a result of your perseverance, you gave well over 100% to confront the demands and endless challenges, academic and non-academic, to be here today. You are commended for your dedication and commitment to achievement of your goals. As Duke graduates, you inherit as well as embody a legacy of global trailblazers that precede and will succeed you. Lainey Funderburk, the Director of Alumni Affairs, once said that a special part about going to an institution of higher learning is that we temporarily became part of an institution that existed before we were born and would endure past our existence. We came from many backgrounds to comprise the class of 1997. While living and learning together, our presence created a lasting imprint on the university community and an intangible historical moment in this university's history that will endure forever. Your tenacity in your pursuit of academic and personal excellence provides the foundation you must have to serve as the future leaders in your respective fields in the 21st century. By continuing on a quest for continuous improvement, discovery, and growth, you will live a life that is challenging and rewarding. On a personal note, I would like to recognize a few of the accomplishments of the undergraduate class of 1997. First, we survived the simultaneous changes in the alcohol and residential policies. Change is never easy, but is essential to growth and progress. And with that recognition, we met these new challenges with class, creativity, and resiliency. I'm a firm believer that we cannot direct the wind, but we can adjust our sails so that the wind will take us where we want to go. As a class, we adjusted our sails, and we created a climate of growth and fulfillment that never broke our stride toward achieving our goal of enjoying our Duke experience. We took an activist role in creating a student voice in the tenure debate, illustrating our dedication to our faculty and the importance of teaching in our Duke experience. Not only did we witness our basketball team make it to the finals and defeat Carolina on Sacred Cameron ground, we also managed to not burn this place down. We entered this university when it was ranked 7th by the infamous U.S. News and World Report, and will leave this university with a 4th place ranking. It cannot be denied. It cannot be denied that that had something to do with us. We also have everything from Rhodes and Mellon scholars to NCAA athletic champions to pageant queens in our ranks. 110 of us will go down in history as the very last people to live in Haynes Annex. And most importantly, we have 1,443 strong, persistent people that can say, I worked hard, I played hard, and I graduated from Duke University. Although we were admitted to our respective academic programs on our own merit, it's important to recognize that it is with the support of many, many individuals that you are here today. Someone believed in you and provided the nurturing or the resources that you needed to not just graduate, but matriculate in the first place. To those of you here today in celebration of our achievements, a very, very special thank you. You have provided us with encouragement, guidance, and love. Without you and your endless sacrifices, these accomplishments that we celebrate today would not have been possible. We will continue your legacy and embody those that have supported us, as well as become future supporters of future generations ourselves. I'm reminded by the thoughts of past commencement speaker and current faculty member David Gergen of another gift that we are bestowed on this day, time. He said that we are among the first graduation to graduate from college without the pressure of war, and that the peace that we enjoy gives us the gift of time. Time provides a priceless opportunity for introspection, analysis, reflection, preparation, and action. As we prepare for our future endeavors, I suggest that we practice the concept of creative tension, which was originated by Peter Senge. It's the idea of seeing where we want to be in relation to where we are. Using vision and current reality ensures the setting of realistic goals and an attainable direction. In addition, we must remember and never forget those of us who started this journey toward this moment with us and have completed this journey with us in spirit. Our classmate, Welby Tyler, reminds us that life is so precious and that no moment should ever be wasted or wasted in vain, and taken for granted. You have become our future leaders, empowered with wisdom and knowledge. Right now, sitting in those chairs, you have unlimited power to do unlimited things. Always remember that in order to be as much as you can be, you must dream of becoming even more. Therefore, I encourage you to define yourselves in terms of not what you are becoming. Define yourselves in terms of what you are becoming, not what you are right now. Those of us that have been here for 4 years had the opportunity to either have entered with or witnessed the leadership of our president, Nan Cohan. During her first Duke convocation, she asserted that the things that we do are more often than not used as a preparatory measure for what comes next in life. She challenged us to not just use our time at Duke to prepare for what comes next, but to use the resources of the university as much as possible and surround ourselves with people and environments that are different in order to learn more about each other and ourselves. The lessons that we could apply to our Duke experience as matriculating students, we can apply as we make this transition to life after Duke. It is very easy to go along a structured path that we've planned for ourselves or that we feel obligated to follow. For example, moving past our studies and moving on to the very next endeavor that society or outside influences see fit. I urge you to gain control of your life and/or remain in control of your life. It is never too early or too late to make a life change or to take ownership of our lives, goals, and dreams. You must be willing to take that risk, but I assure you that in weighing a full and healthy life against regrets, it's a risk worth taking. Our learning, just like our growth, should be continuous and endless. Our Duke experience has taught us how to challenge our environments, each other, and our minds. Let's continue to take risks and explore the diversity of background, paradigm, and experience that life affords us. After all, Duke is just a microcosm of one's life experience. We entered one way, lost and or found ourselves in the context of the Duke community. And from success to setback to success, we are leaving wiser, stronger, and transformed. Although real life doesn't take food points or flex, we can use the many other academic, social, and cultural facets of our Duke experience. And with an open mind, ear, and heart, we can lead our world into a bright and global future. In closing, I would like to thank the Commencement Committee for the opportunity to address you, and again, my sincere congratulations to the class of 1997 graduates for not slowing down at the sight of the finish line. I encourage you to continue your greatness, wish you the very best in your trailblazing endeavors, and encourage you to always remember that what lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian, for that eloquent address this morning. It is now my pleasure to present to you the chairman of the Board of Trustees of Duke University, John Koskinen. John Koskinen is an alumnus of Duke, and he is currently the Director of Management for the federal government's Office of Management and Budget. This will be his last commencement as chair. He has served in that capacity since '94. And I'm proud to share the news that at its last national meeting in April, the Association of Governing Boards of Colleges and Universities in this country presented him with a 1997 Distinguished Trusteeship Award, which is given annually to a trustee who has served his institution with distinction and also demonstrated exceptional initiatives to strengthen the institution's vitality. We are deeply indebted to him for his leadership. Please join me in welcoming John Koskinen.
Thank you, Nan, for those kind comments, and thank all of you for your continuous support to a truly wonderful university. It is now my pleasure, as chair of the Board of Trustees of Duke University, to declare that this convocation is now open for the conferring of degrees honoris causa. Madam President, I have the pleasure to present the name of Norman R. Augustine, who is a candidate for the honorary degree of Doctor of Laws. The nomination has been approved by the faculties of the university and by the Board of Trustees. I ask Professor Earl H. Dowell, his faculty sponsor, to escort the candidate to the podium.
Norman Augustine, when the Soviet Union launched the Sputnik satellite in 1957, you recall being utterly shocked since you couldn't imagine how we could be number two. You then launched yourself into a job with the Douglas Aircraft Corporation. When you became Chief Executive Officer of the merged Martin Marietta and Lockheed Corporations this year, you culminated a career that has reshaped American aerospace. Before your 18-year career with Martin Marietta, you served in the Defense Department as Undersecretary of the Army. You played a key role in developing an all-volunteer Army. It was a period of trial by fire. You were called to Capitol Hill to testify on the Vietnam War effort just 2.5 hours into your first day as Undersecretary. Through publications and speaking engagements, you have become your industry's chief philosopher on management issues. One of your famous principles, Augustine's Laws, goes as follows. If a sufficient number of management layers are superimposed on top of each other, it can be assured that disaster is not left to chance. Analysts say that your strategies and your actions, celebrated this spring with your being awarded the National Medal of Technology, the nation's highest honor in your field, have helped create a more efficient defense industry. No less vigorously, you have served as a model of philanthropic endeavor. Your volunteer leadership roles have included the American Red Cross, the Boy Scouts of America, Princeton and Johns Hopkins universities, and Duke's own School of Engineering. You have also been a model adventurer, having achieved renown for skiing, snorkeling, hiking, and taking vacations by canoe, dog sled, covered wagon, and camel power. Your inspired leadership has created consensus around the government-university research partnership, so central to the economic health and the social health of our nation. Beginning next fall, you will take your engineering and executive expertise and presumably your hiking boots to Princeton University, your alma mater, as professor in the School of Engineering and Applied Science. Duke University is proud to recognize your service to industry, government, and education. And now, by the authority vested in me, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Laws, and I admit you to its rights, its privileges, and its obligations. Congratulations.
Thank you so very much. Very, very honored. Thank you.
I now invite Trustee Herman Postma to come forward to present the next candidate.
Madam President, I have the distinct pleasure to present the name of John Howard Gibbons, who is candidate for the honorary degree of Doctor of Science. This nomination has been approved by the faculties of the university and the Board of Trustees, and I ask Dr. Ed Bilpik, his faculty sponsor, former Duke classmate, to escort the candidate to the podium.
Jack Gibbons, your career represents a 40-year commitment to advancing scientific knowledge and enhancing the role of science and technology in public policy. And along the way, you have exemplified 3 lessons. First, scientific training is an effective instrument in solving many kinds of problems. Secondly, a change in professional direction about every decade or so is to be relished. And third, attacking issues from fresh perspectives is a natural ingredient of creativity. You earned your undergraduate degree from Randolph-Macon and your doctorate in physics from Duke. You began as a physicist and group leader in nuclear geophysics at the Oak Ridge National Laboratory, and then served as the first director of the Office of Energy Conservation in the Federal Energy Administration, and then director of the Energy, Environment, and Resources Center in Tennessee. During your 13-year tenure as director of the Congressional Office of Technology Assessment, you led that agency in its famously fair and balanced probes of issues ranging from hazardous wastes to postal automation, from microelectronics to the space stations, from biotechnology to nuclear energy. In your own words, when you're conducting scientific research, the easiest thing is to tackle the technical issues. As you move toward the political and social implications, you get nervous because you're on less familiar ground. But I slowly got converted. Since 1993, you've been the Assistant to the President for Science and Technology and Director of the Office for Science and Technology Policy. One of your greatest challenges, you have said, is ensuring that research and development remain national priorities, even in an environment of fiscal constraints. In a journal editorial, you reminded your fellow scientists of the importance of being advocates for excellence. You said, "Each of us needs to be a partisan for science, to embrace a partisanship born of hope and hope for the future. It is not partisanship based on party ideology, but on concern over the possibility that the work of generations that has put us at the forefront of world science and technology could be undone in a few budget cycles. Sharing in your own hope for the future, Duke University is proud to honor you. And now, by the authority vested in me, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Science, and I admit you to its rights, its privileges, and its obligations. Congratulations. And now I invite Trustee Wilhelmina Rubin Cook to come forward to present the next candidate.
Madam President, I have the pleasure to present the name of Peter John Gomes as a candidate for the honorary degree of Doctor of Humane Letters. The nomination has been approved by the faculties of the university and by the Board of Trustees. I ask Dean Dennis M. Campbell, his faculty sponsor, to escort the candidate to the podium.
Back in 1979, Time magazine asked this question: is American preaching a dying art? Not at all, said Time, when it could count you, Peter Gomes, among the princes of the Protestant pulpit. Having served in Memorial Church at Harvard University since 1970, and as Plummer Professor of Christian Morals and Minister since 1974, you have shown how a person of deep intellect can be a person of profound faith. And you have applied grace, conviction, and wit, to say nothing of the words of sages ranging from T.S. Eliot to Mae West, to your calling. In your latest book, The Good Book, you offer insight into what the Bible is, how it is used, and what it has to say to the individual. As an African American with ancestors in 18th century New England, you wrote poignantly about how advocates of slavery and segregation looked to the Bible misguidedly. And your examples extend to today's culture wars. You have said, the temptations to misread the Bible on our own behalf and to domesticate it for our own purposes are many and dangerous. And in America, devoted as we are to the Bible, we have tried them all. Commentators note that you are at home in many worlds, a man of humble beginnings who has presided over the Pilgrim Society of Plymouth and preached before presidents. But in all the worlds you inhabit, including the Duke pulpit on many occasions, you are constant in your elegant appeals to virtuous action. Some years ago, you offered this counsel to the newest graduating class at Harvard, and I quote, "Tempting though it may be to wait to perform virtuously at a cosmic moment in world affairs, more often than not, the test of your character will come not in the context of some nuclear holocaust or profound moral dilemma, but rather in the ordinary circumstances of living, being, and doing, where the tests are daily and the results inexorable in their accumulation. In calling on your young charges to live the good life, as you put it, of modesty, vision, and hard work, you inspire not just with the poetry of your words, but the power of your example. And now, by the authority vested in me, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters, and I admit you to its rights, its privileges, and its obligations. Congratulations. I now invite Trustee Susan King to come forward to present the next candidate.
Madam President, I have the pleasure to present the name of Doris L. Leeper, who is a candidate for the honorary degree Doctor of Fine Arts. The nomination has been approved by the faculties of the university, the Board of Trustees. May I now ask Professor Richard L. Powell, who is her faculty sponsor, to escort her to the platform.
Doris Leeper, among your numerous works of art, none is more impressive than the Atlantic Center for the Arts in New Smyrna, Florida, a coastal town that you first visited on spring break from Duke. The artists' community and educational facility draws masters from visual, literary, and performing arts. And in that remarkable place, creative collaborations have flourished and creative energy has flowed for 15 years. It is fitting that this vision came from a talented artist committed to cultivating future talent. It was an audacious vision, as you once recalled. People would tell us there was no way we could get the best in the world to come. But through your firm commitment and boundless energy, you transformed a vision into a community known not just for its exuberant expressiveness, but also for its imaginative interplay between architecture and environment. Your own sculpture, painting, and prints, more than 1,000 pieces, have been exhibited worldwide. They appear in important collections, including those of Duke University. Widely praised for its subtlety and richness, your work has been recognized with numerous awards and prizes. Your sense of stewardship extends in many directions. You have given shape not just to works of art, not just to the careers of artists, but to a whole environment. You've been instrumental in creating the Canaveral National Seashore, a fragile coastal dune area where much of your own art has been created, now preserved for others to enjoy. Your own art is in a deep sense environmental. As you have described it, whatever I do, I want it to be complementary of its surroundings. Talking about your childhood pleasures of collecting and then drawing insects, you have said, quote, "I was happiest when I would tool around by myself with my magnifying glass. I've always been an independent thinker." What you have magnified in later years are countless artistic futures. Duke is proud to celebrate you as an alumna of striking artistic vision, steadfastness, and independent thinking. And now, by the authority vested in me, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Fine Arts, and I admit you to its rights, its privileges, and its obligations. Congratulations. I now invite Trustee Judy Woodruff to come forward to present the next candidate.
Madam President, I have the great pleasure to present the name of Jimmy Carter, who is a candidate for the honorary degree of Doctor of Humane Letters. The nomination has been approved by the faculties of the university and the Board of Trustees. I will ask Professor Juanita Krebs, his faculty sponsor, to escort the candidate to the podium.
James Earl Carter, President Jimmy Carter, in your campaign autobiography, Why Not the Best, you wrote, quote, "I have come to realize that in every person there is something fine and pure and noble, along with a desire for self-fulfillment. Political and religious leaders must attempt to provide a society within which these human attributes can be nurtured and enhanced. As we contemplate your presidency and your years beyond the White House, indeed as we contemplate the pettiness and rancor that have infected our political system, we are struck by your enduring decency. In your inaugural address, you declared, quote, "Our commitment to human rights must be absolute." And you built your presidency on that philosophy. Through the historic Camp David Agreement, you took a huge risk for peace. But in bringing together the heads of state of Egypt and Israel, you transformed the destructive political dynamics of the Middle East and radically reduced the risk of war. You have said that you never intended the presidency to be the end of your activism. Indeed, the presidency was just one phase of it. As a private citizen, as founder of the Carter Center at Emory University, you have negotiated the end of civil conflicts throughout Latin America and Africa. You have helped organize and monitor elections in Panama, Nicaragua, the Dominican Republic, Haiti. You worked to defuse a dangerous diplomatic crisis over North Korea's nuclear policy. Closer to home, you continue to lead Sunday school classes, drawing diverse individuals together to make sense of their lives and their world. And you have come to symbolize the constructive deeds of Habitat for Humanity, donating your services as a skilled carpenter to build housing for the poor. You are, in short, a humanitarian whose interests have no borders and whose dedication has no limits. In your book, Living Faith, you tell us, and I quote, "We need a permanent foundation on which our lives can be fashioned. Without a central core of beliefs or standards by which to live, we may never experience the challenge and excitement of seeking a greater life. In honoring you, Duke University is proud to celebrate the beliefs and standards that have animated your life. And now, by the authority vested in me, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters, and I admit you to its rights, its privileges, and its obligations." Congratulations. After you shake hands, you can stay up here. I'm going to introduce you now. Yeah. And now for the 1997 commencement address. I have the high honor to present to you the 39th President of the United States, Jimmy Carter.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. Yesterday, when I arrived on the campus, I was with my grandson, Jason, who's in the graduating class. He said, "Papa, are you nervous about what you're going to say tomorrow?" And I said, "No, I'm not very nervous." He said, "Well, I really am." Last night, when I was leaving Jason's party and he was just beginning, I said, "Well, Jason, I hope you don't worry about what I'm going to say tomorrow, because do you think that anyone in the class will remember anything I say 5 years from now?" And Jason said, "It depends on what you say." Well, I kind of took that as a challenge, so I went back to my hotel room last night and got up early this morning, and there are 4 things that I want you to remember. One is money returned. The second one is a female politician. The third one is a scientific instrument. And the fourth one is something you cannot see. I'm glad the President mentioned my book, Living Faith, which Rosen asked me to announce is still on sale. And from it, I would like to illustrate with one of the stories in the book the overall theme of my speech. This fellow died and went to heaven. When he got there, he was met by St. Peter and an angel. And St. Peter said, well, tell me something about yourself. And he said, well, I got a doctorate from a major university. I've been very successful in my business life. I've been active in my church. I've taught Sunday school even, and I feel I'm well qualified. St. Peter said, well, what have you ever done for anyone else? The fellow thought for a moment. He said, well, back in the Depression years, there was a group of hobos that came by my house, and my wife fixed them a bunch of sandwiches, and I gave it to them, and even with depressed dollars, that was worth at least 50 cents. St. Peter said, well, have you done anything more recently? And the fellow said, well, as a matter of fact, just last year, my neighbor's house burned down. And I looked around on my back porch in some old furniture, and I found a little table, and I took it over and gave it to him to refurnish his house. And that was also worth about 50 cents. St. Peter said to the angel, go down to earth and see if his story is true. So the angel went down, came back, and said, yes, sir, what he said is absolutely right. What should we do with him? St. Peter said, give him his dollar back and tell him to go to hell. Well, that's the first point I want to make. I grew up in the South, as did many of you during the civil rights years and the years even before there was any debate on the subject of discrimination against our neighbors. Discrimination based on race is terrible. But I think that worldwide and in this country now, the greatest demonstration of discrimination is the rich against the poor. All of you, perhaps all in this stadium, are rich. What is a rich person? I'm not talking about bank accounts. A rich person is someone who has a decent home. I would say a modicum of usable education, the access to reasonable health care, who feel that the police and the judicial system are on our side, and who think that if we make a decision, it'll make a difference, at least in our own lives. Those are the rich people. But we have a lot of neighbors who don't have any of those things. And we don't deliberately discriminate against them. But we have been given a treasure in our life of all those things, some greatly magnified, particularly the graduates of Duke. And we rarely share. How many of us know a poor family? Well enough to go to their house and have a cup of coffee and get to know the names of their teenage kids. Or, God forbid, invite them to our house and maybe take them to a baseball game or to a movie with our children. Very few. Why is that? I think the natural thing is for all human beings to believe that we are somehow superior in the way that we live, mostly in an encapsulated world. Quite secure is adequate. This brings me to my second point, a female politician. The year I was born, Texas had a governor, a woman named Ma Ferguson. Her husband had been governor before her. There was a debate in Texas then, which is still going on, by the way, about what to do concerning Mexican immigrants who don't speak English well or at all. The debate was, should we let them learn in Spanish, or should we force them to go to classes with English only? Ma Ferguson settled a debate. She held up a Holy Bible. She said, if English is good enough for Jesus Christ, it's good enough for us. This illustrates my second point. You know, we live in an environment which is our own, created, and we rarely look toward other people as equal or deserving. I want to use two examples of men who worked for the Carter Center. One is Dr. Don Hopkins, who happens to be African American. Don Hopkins is a specialist on obscure diseases. The Carter Center is responsible for immunizing the world's children, and we also have a special task force that analyzes all the world's illnesses, all human diseases, to see which ones might theoretically or practically be totally eradicated from the face of the earth. We've now targeted polio, which is well known, and there hasn't been a case of polio in this hemisphere for 5 years. China has now gone 2 years without a single case of polio, and so forth. The other one is guinea worm. Not nearly so well known, a terrible disease that is almost indescribable in its ugliness. It only affects the most isolated and poorest villages, mostly in Africa, also a few in India, Pakistan, and Yemen. Don Hopkins leads our effort to eradicate guinea worm. He goes into those villages. He talks to the people. He teaches them how to deal with this terrible disease, what causes it. When he began his program in 1987, we found 3.5 million people with guinea worm, not counting Sudan, a country we couldn't enter because of an ongoing war. 3.5 million. At the end of last year, Don Hopkins had reduced that number to 30,000. And we now know almost everyone on earth that has guinea worm. One man rich in every way, that shares his life with some of the poorest people on earth. Another man I'd like to mention is named Marco Quiñones. Marco Quiñones is a Mexican, an agronomist, who works in a program at the Carter Center called Global 2000. We began this program just after the Live Aid concert about 10 years ago, when people in Ethiopia were starving to death. And a group of musicians got together for the greatest musical concert maybe in history, because the Ethiopians and the Sudanese were starving. Marco Quiñones lives in Africa now, away from his home in Mexico. He served 5 years in our program in Tanzania. He trained 50,000 small farmers how to triple at least their production of basic food grain, in that case, corn. And then 4 years ago, he moved to Ethiopia. At that time, Ethiopia was producing 5.5 million tons of grain, about half what the population required for sustenance, for survival. They had to import the rest or starve. Quiñones knew that there was a special problem in Ethiopia. They have a soil called vertisal, which has zero sand or zero loam, absolutely pure clay. We would call gumbo. If you walk across it, you just get taller and taller because it builds up under your feet. And when the rain falls on it, it can't sink in, except very slowly. And once the soil gets wet, it doesn't dry out. It was only good for goats to nibble a few blades of weeds or grass. Quiñones used his mind and his research capability, and he devised a very special and simple solution. The farmers in Ethiopia now hook their plows together about 4 feet apart with an ox drawing each plow. The farmer walks behind, and he ties between the two plows a chain, a very simple device. And the plow digs a deep ditch and throws the dirt in the middle, and the chain smooths it off. And he plants on the smoothed off part. We're now producing 80 tons of wheat per acre and 140 bushels of corn per acre on that land that never was productive before. Last year, instead of 5.5 million tons of grain, Ethiopia produced 11.7 million tons of grain. And on the 13th of January this year, because of the work of this one man, Ethiopia exported its first surplus corn to nearby countries. One man, rich in every possible way with education, health, and so forth, who wants to share his life among some of the poorest people in the world. Well, we live in a nation, those of us who are Americans, that is now the only superpower on earth, with opportunities for true national greatness. Let's think for just a moment about the measurements of greatness. We are obviously the strongest military power in the world. We have the greatest political influence. Economically, we are strong, maybe stronger than any other, and so forth. We enjoy basic freedoms of which we're very proud. But we still haven't measured up to transcendence in international affairs. What are the measurements of transcendence? You can make your own list. I would say that we should be the champion of peace. Everywhere. In Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, in Haiti, in Liberia, Zaire, in Somalia, so that wherever there is a conflict on earth, the people would say, why don't we turn to America? Because they will use their tremendous power to bring us peace. I would say another characteristic would be a champion of freedom and democracy, eager always to let people, once they have found peace, move toward a democratic government. Zaire faces that challenge now. I would say respect for human rights. The basic human rights about which we sometimes debate. I don't mean just those in the Declaration of, in our Constitution, the Bill of Rights, because we Americans like to talk about only those. We like to talk about freedom of speech and freedom of assembly, freedom of religion, trial by jury, and so forth. But we don't want to talk about everyone in America having a right to a decent home, or adequate food, or a job, or medical care. Human rights should be a broad-based thing. Champion of environmental quality. Every one of you consumes every year about 16 times more of the world's precious and depleting energy than does a young person your age in, say, India. And I would say, finally, share what we have with others. The alleviation of suffering. Of all the developed nations on earth, the United States is the stingiest. A poll not too long ago asked American people, how much do you think of our federal budget we give to foreign aid? The average answer was 17%. The true answer is 0.3%. Every time a Norwegian, for instance, gives $20, Americans give $1. Those are the characteristics of a great nation, and we still have a long way to go, and we all should set our sights on that goal. What about the special things that America has to offer? I would say we are challenged to some degree with nuclear weaponry in the Soviet Union and other countries, with economic development perhaps in Japan, with benevolence and care and concern certainly in the Norwegian and Scandinavian countries. But there's one element of American society which is unchallenged in its superiority in every way, and that's the university system. Even if you go to a proud nation like France or Great Britain or Germany or Japan, they know that American universities are preeminent. But I would say that American universities also have a long way to go. A few years ago, I was in Kenya, and I was asked to make a speech when I got back from Africa to an assembly of presidents of the southeastern United States colleges and universities. So to prepare my speech, I passed a little tape recorder around the table where I was sitting, and there were leaders there from several African countries. I tape recorded exactly what they said, and I'd like to read what was said about American universities, including Duke and including Emory, where I teach. A woman from Seychelles said, "They are rarely relevant in our lives." A woman from Uganda, who is now the Prime Minister, Vice President and the Minister of Agriculture, said, "What is known is not shared with those needing to know. Information is just exchanged among academics who never witness hunger or have personal knowledge of torture or see a denuded landscape. How many university presidents have been in a village where river blindness is prevalent or guinea worm a constant plague? We cannot even get our agricultural research scientists to go out into the fields as they look down on extension workers as inferiors." A man from Ghana said, "We know that almost everything is connected: health, nutrition, environmental quality, political stability, human rights. Some leading educators in the United States understand this, but the information is not even shared with our government ministers, whose decisions control our lives." A minister from Zambia said, "Universities should be where the highest ideals are preserved, but we witness little interest in our problems." A woman from Nigeria said, "One action is better than 100 conferences." And on the way home, I asked a scientist whose work has brought direct benefits to almost every person on earth what he thought universities should do. He said, "Let me answer it in this way. In the education of my own children, I would want them to acquire 3 things. First of all, an inquisitive mind, always exploring new ideas, questioning old ones, not afraid to challenge the status quo. Second, I would want them to know that there's a cause and effect relationship. This is not a fatalistic world inhabited by people whose suffering is inevitable and whose problems cannot be solved. And third, I would want my children to know that they are world citizens. I would want them eager to learn foreign languages, forced to, if necessary," he said. Where's the opportunity to change a nation or the university system? I would say it's among young people like you, who have freedom that might not be equal any other time in your lives, and who have an inquisitive mind, always probing for new ideas, which is essential to the resolution of the world's problems or the meeting of its opportunities. And this comes to my 4th point about a scientific instrument. There was a brash young college student, I won't say what college, in a physics class, freshman, and he was asked, the whole class was asked, how to use a barometer to determine the altitude or height of a building. And this somewhat arrogant young man said, "I don't know which way they want. There are several ways." And he turned in his paper. The professor was quite angry, so he called him in and said, "How can you be such a smart aleck? What do you mean, several ways?" And the student said, "Well, I could name several ways to begin with." And the professor said, "Okay, why don't you do that?" And the student said, "Well, first of all, you measure the barometric pressure on the ground. You take the instrument to the top of the building, measure the barometric pressure there, and determine the altitude of the building." The professor said, "That's right, that's the answer I wanted, but that's it." The student said, "No, that's not it. There are other ways." He said, "Take the barometer, put it on the ground, and measure the length of its shadow, and then measure the height of the barometer, and then measure the length of the building shadow, and you can determine the height of the building." The professor didn't say much, so the student said, "There's some other ways too. Take the thermometer to the top of the building, tie a string on it, lower it down till it touches the ground, and measure the length of the string." The professor said, "Well, I'm not going to respond to that." And the student said, "That's not all. Take the thermometer to the top of the building again with a stopwatch. Drop it. Measure how long it takes to hit the ground. there again, you got the height of the building. The professor was still angry, but about that time, the dean of the business school walked by. And the professor went out in the hall and told the business dean what was going on, and the dean said, well, why don't you let me come in? So the business dean came in and said, well, if you can tell me a way to use this in the business school, I will, in business field, I'll recommend that you be given a good grade. And the young man said, that's very easy. He said, you take this nice barometer over to the school engineer, the ground superintendent, and you say, if you tell me how tall that building is, I'll give you this barometer. Well, the point I want to make is that as we go through our lives and face problems or challenges that seem to be insurmountable, a nation, a university, a human being not measuring up to our potential, finding it difficult to reach out to a poor family that may be in the same neighborhood, not knowing how to stretch our minds or stretch our hearts. Perhaps you could think about the barometer. My 3 sons grew up during the 60s, where college students or college-age Americans captured the imagination of the world with 3 major commitments, I would say. One was environmental equality with Earth Day. One was to end the Vietnam War, a serious mistake to begin with. And third, to bring about a revolution concerning civil rights. Young people, your age, younger than anyone on the stage except one. Later, Amy, who was born 15 years after my youngest son, my wife and I had a 14-year argument that I finally won. When she went to college, a little bit later, she's getting her master's degree this week from Tulane. She thought it was unfair for apartheid to exist in South Africa. So although she's very shy, she demonstrated in front of the Japanese embassy in Washington and different places. She was arrested 3 times. She didn't think the Contra War in Nicaragua was fair, and so when the CIA came to recruit on the campus, she demonstrated again. And she was arrested and went through a long trial. Found innocent. By jury, Amy points out, all of whom are over 30 years old. I'm not advocating violating the law or getting elected, arrested, but I think it is good. You might want to remember that also. But I think it is good to stretch our minds and not be afraid to take a chance. And the final point, that I tell you something that you cannot see, will come from words of St. Paul, who was questioned by members of the early church in Corinth, his second letter to the Corinthians. They asked him, what are the things in life that are permanent, on which we can build priorities that are superlative? And Paul, in his letter, said, they're the things that you cannot see. This is kind of a strange response. What are the things that are the permanent foundation for a setting of priorities in our lives that you cannot see? You can't see justice, truth, service, compassion, and if you'll forgive the expression, love.
Thank you very much, President Carter, for that very powerful address. I'm told that President Carter has not given many, if any, commencement addresses in his life, I hope he recognizes that he is at this, as at so many things, a true master. And we are honored to have him and members of his family here with us today. And now it is my pleasure to recognize the Chief Academic Officer of the University, Provost John Strobane, Professor of Biomedical Engineering.
Madam President, as Chief Academic Officer of the University, I declare this convocation is now open for the awarding of earned degrees, and as they are called, I invite the deans of the schools and the college to present candidates for the several degrees.
The September and December 1996 graduates who have already received their diplomas are listed separately in the printed program. 200 are here today and will be standing with the various groups as the degrees are conferred. And now, candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Arts, please rise.
Mr. President, Mr. Provost, I have the honor to present to the President of the University those students in Trinity College who have completed all requirements for the Bachelor of Arts degree and whose names appear in the printed program. These persons have been approved by the faculty and the trustees and are here now to have that degree conferred upon them.
By the authority vested in me, I confer upon each of you the ancient and honorable degree of Bachelor of Arts, and I welcome you to the company of educated men and women. Congratulations.
You may be seated. Now, candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Science, please rise.
Mr. Provost, I have the honor to present to the President of the University those students in Trinity College who have completed all requirements for the degree of Bachelor of Science and whose names appear in the printed program. These persons, including my daughter Susan, have been approved by the faculty and the trustees and are here now to have that degree conferred upon them.
By the authority vested in me, I confer upon each of you the degree of Bachelor of Science and welcome you to the company of men and women who are educated especially in the sciences. Congratulations. Each of our lives has been touched in a special way by the teachers in our elementary and secondary schools who diligently prepared us for our future lives. So at this time, I would like to recognize 12 members of this graduating class who have prepared themselves to meet the demands of effective teaching. Having qualified for a degree, they have also completed the requirements for a standard teaching certificate. Their names are marked on your program. In order that we may recognize their achievement, I ask these 12 to rise.
Now, candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Science and Engineering, please rise.
Mr. Provost, I have the honor to present to the President of the University those students in the School of Engineering who have completed all requirements for the degree of Bachelor of Science in Engineering. These persons have been approved by the faculty and the trustees and are here now to have that modern and honorable degree conferred upon them.
By the authority vested in me, I confer upon each of you the degree of Bachelor of Science in Engineering in recognition of your competence in the skills of your profession and your commitment to a calling which combines the best of theory and practice. Congratulations.
Candidates for the degree of Master of Health Sciences and also candidates for the degree of Master of Health Sciences in Biometry, please rise.
Mr. Provost, I have the honor to present to the President of the University those students in the School of Medicine who have completed all requirements for the modern and honored degree of Masters of Health Science. Students graduating will enter the disciplines of physician assistant, pathologist assistant, and specialist in transfusion medicine, as well as a recipient of the degree of Master of Health Science Biometry. Those names who appear in the program, these persons have been approved by the faculty and the trustees and are here now to have that degree conferred upon them. These students now graduated will take their rightful place as key members of the healthcare team, and I am certain will become leaders of their respective disciplines in the 21st century.
By the authority vested in me, I confer upon you the degree of Master of Health Sciences, acknowledging your training in the basic medical sciences and clinical medicine, preparing you for careers as physician assistants. And by the authority vested in me, I confer upon you the degree of Master of Health Sciences in Biometry in recognition of your academic training in the quantitative principles of clinical investigation. Congratulations.
Now, candidates for the degree of Master of Science in Nursing, please rise.
As advanced practice nurses, the graduates of the Duke University School of Nursing are well prepared to provide care to individuals, families, and communities, and to do so with integrity, expertise, and compassion. Mr. Provost, I have the honor to present to the President of the University students in the School of Nursing who have completed all requirements for the degree of Masters of Science in Nursing and whose names appear in the printed program. These persons have been approved by the faculty and the trustees and are here now to have that honorable degree conferred upon them.
In recognition of your achievement in nursing education at an advanced level and your preparation for service to your profession and to humanity in healthcare, I confer upon each of you the degree of Master of Science in Nursing. Congratulations.
Candidates for the degree of Master of Environmental Management and candidates for the degree of Master of Forestry. Please stand.
Mr. Provost, I have the honor to present to the President of the University those students in the Nicholas School of the Environment committed to the quality and sustainable management of our environment, who have completed all of the requirements for the degrees of Master of Environmental Management and Master of Forestry, and whose names appear in the printed program. These persons have been approved by the faculty and the trustees and are here now to have those degrees conferred upon them.
I confer upon you the degree of Master of Environmental Management in recognition of your completion of the requirements for your profession and your concern for our natural world and the preservation of our diminishing natural resources. And I do confer the degree of Master of Forestry in evidence of your fitness to enter upon the practice of your profession and the great duty that is yours as you serve the infinitely complex world of nature. Congratulations.
Candidates for the degree of Master of Religious Education and also candidates for the degree of Master of Theological Studies. Please stand.
Mr. Provost, I have the honor to present to the President of the University those students in the Divinity School who have fulfilled all requirements for the degree Master of Religious Education and those who have fulfilled requirements for the degree Master of Theological Studies. Their names are printed in the program. These persons have been approved by the faculty and by the trustees of Duke University. They are here now, or their names are in the program, to have these degrees which signify accomplishment in theological studies and accomplishment in studies to prepare them to teach in these fields. And they are here now for the conferring of these degrees.
I take you as representative of your colleagues, knowing that many of them are at work in their parish churches at this time on Sunday morning. By the authority vested in me, I confer upon you the degree of Master of Religious Education in evidence of your preparation for the work of teaching and administration in the parish church. And on those who have completed the requirements for the degree of Master of Theological Studies, I confer this degree, which gives evidence of your attainment in the several fields of theological inquiry. Congratulations.
Now, candidates for the degree of Master of Business Administration, please stand.
Mr. Provost, President Cohan, and honored guests, it gives me great pleasure to present to you the candidates for the conferral of the Master of Business Administration degree. These persons have satisfied all requirements for the degree, been approved by the faculty, certified by the dean, and authorized by the Board of Trustees of Duke University. They leave Duke University with a sense of purpose and pride, a code of personal ethics, and a desire to make this world, through their effort and influence, a better place.
By the authority vested in me, I am pleased to confer upon you the degree of Master of Business Administration in recognition of your concentrated study of the theory and practice of the complex world of business and your preparation to lead society through entrepreneurship and investment in our future. Congratulations.
Now, candidates for the degree of Master of Public Policy, please stand.
Mr. Provost, I have the honor to present to the President of the University those students in the graduate school who have completed all requirements for the degree of Master of Public Policy and whose names appear in the printed program. These individuals are now prepared to serve our nation and other countries through intelligent and dedicated public service and to further the public trust in many other walks of life. These persons have been approved by the faculty and the trustees and are here now to have that degree conferred upon them.
By the authority vested in me, I confer upon you the degree of Master of Public Policy in recognition of your professional course of study in policy analysis and public management and your commitment to public service. Congratulations.
Now, candidates for the degree of Master of Arts in Teaching, please rise.
Mr. Provost, I have the honor to present to the President of the University those students in the graduate school who have completed all requirements for the degree of Master of Arts in Teaching and whose names appear in the printed program. These individuals represent the demonstrated commitment of themselves and of this university to provide talented and superbly trained people to teach in our schools at the secondary level. These persons have been approved by the faculty and the trustees and are here now to have that degree conferred upon them.
By the authority vested in me, I confer upon you the degree of Master of Arts in Teaching in evidence of your completion of a program of graduate study in your discipline and of your intent to meet our pressing national need for secondary school teachers. Congratulations.
Now, candidates for the degree of Master of Science and also candidates for the degree of Master of Arts, please stand.
Mr. Provost, I have the honor to present to the President of the University those students in the graduate school who have completed all requirements for the degree of Master of Science and for the degree of Master of Arts. Their names appear in the printed program. Each of these individuals has received rigorous post-baccalaureate education in an academic discipline. These persons have been approved by the faculty and the trustees and are here now to have these degrees conferred upon them.
To you who are candidates for the degree of Master of Science, I confer upon and invest you with that degree, marking the progress you have made towards advanced learning in a technical discipline. And to you who have been elected Master of Arts, I now invest you with this ancient distinction, marking the progress you have made on the high road of advanced learning. Congratulations to all of you.
Candidates for the degree of Master of Divinity and candidates for the degree of Master of Theology, please stand.
Mr. Provost, I have the honor to present to the President of the University 98 students in the Divinity School who have fulfilled all requirements for the degree Master of Divinity, and 13 students who have fulfilled all requirements for the advanced professional degree Master of Theology. These persons have been approved by the faculty and the trustees and are here now to have these degrees conferred upon them.
Upon those of you who have attained the degree of Master of Divinity, I confer the seal of your high calling to minister to the religious needs of people in all parts of the world and in all areas of life. And upon you who have completed the requirements for the advanced degree of Master of Theology, I confer that degree in recognition of your study and research in a particular field of scholarship beyond your graduate professional degree. Congratulations.
Now, candidates for the degree of Juris Doctor and also candidates for the degree of Master of Laws, please rise.
Mr. Provost, I have the honor to present to the President of the University those students in the School of Law who have completed all requirements for the Juris Doctor degree and those who have completed all requirements for the Master of Laws degree and whose names appear in the printed program. These persons have been liberally educated to be ethical members of a learned profession. They have been approved by the faculty and the trustees and are here now to have their honorable degrees conferred upon them.
I confer the degree of Juris Doctor upon you who have attained not only professional competence for the practice of law, but also preparation for leadership in the highest civil and public responsibilities as you join those who craft the wise restraints that make us free. And I confer the degree of Master of Laws upon you who are attorneys and have returned to advance your own achievements in legal study and research. Congratulations.
Now, candidates for the degree of Doctor of Juridical Science, please stand.
Mr. Provost, I have the honor to present to the President of the University the student in the School of Law who has completed all requirements for our highest professional degree, the Doctor of Juridical Science, and whose name appears in the printed program. He has been approved by the faculty and the trustees and is here now to have that degree conferred upon him.
In recognition of your long and rigorous training in advanced legal study and research and your demonstrated ability to advance knowledge in that field, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Juridical Science. Congratulations.
Now, candidates for the degree of Doctor of Medicine, please rise.
Mr. Provost, I have the honor to present to the President of the University those students in the School of Medicine who have completed all requirements for the ancient and honored degree of Doctor of Medicine and whose names appear in the printed program. These persons have been approved by the faculty and the trustees and are here now to have that degree conferred upon them. These students who are graduating will assume roles of leadership and responsibility, I'm certain, in American healthcare during the 21st century.
By the authority vested in me, I confer upon each of you the degree of Doctor of Medicine in recognition of your thorough training in the ancient but rapidly changing science of medicine and your commitment to serve the human family with dedication, high skill, humility, and compassion. Congratulations.
And now, finally, I ask the candidates for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. Please rise.
Mr. Provost, I have the honor to present to the President of the University those students in the graduate school who have completed all requirements for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy and whose names appear in the printed program. This degree represents a recognition of true independence in original scholarship and the demonstrated ability of each of these individuals to make a significant contribution to our body of knowledge. These persons have been approved by the faculty and the trustees and are here now to have that most honorable degree conferred upon them.
In recognition of your long and rigorous training in a particular discipline of learning and your demonstrated ability to advance fundamental knowledge in that field, I confer upon each of you that highest academic distinction, the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, and congratulate you as you join the company of scholars, past, present, and future, in our continuing search for truth. Congratulations. In the name of Duke University, I declare that these persons upon whom these degrees have been conferred today are entitled to the rights and privileges pertaining to their several degrees, and that their names will be forever and proudly borne upon the rolls of Duke University. Just a few closing comments. First, I would like to call your attention to an unusual group of scholars. On the basis of a great expenditure of time and effort and the possession of unusual talent, these individuals have qualified for and received today combined degrees, Juris Doctor and Doctor of Medicine, and Doctor of Medicine and Doctor of Philosophy. By virtue of that unusual breadth of training, they have unique contributions to make to their areas of scholarly research. I ask these persons now to stand so that we can show our regard for what they have accomplished. I also want to pay special tribute to the students of the graduating classes who have distinguished their careers at Duke by achieving honors and academic awards and distinctions. Their names and the awards that they have earned are printed toward the end of the program. These names merit attention by all, and especially by parents, friends, and teachers. We recognize these students' achievements with much pride and satisfaction, and I shall ask them now to stand so that we can show our regard for what they have accomplished. At this time, I would like to announce that this year's senior class gift will be given in its entirety to the annual fund in memory of your classmate, Welby Tyler. In this way, the special interests of each student will be enriched. We are very grateful to the members of the senior class for this wonderful contribution to the life of the university and our community, and to the memory of their classmate. And now I know that all the graduates from every school will want to express thanks to the many people who were such an essential part of their years at Duke, and I will name just a few of these categories. First of all, to the faculty members for their care, support, and stimulation. To the staff members for smoothing the way through bureaucratic mazes and responding to personal concerns. And to the people from grounds, housekeeping, public safety, and other services who kept the residences and the campus beautiful. These folks, including those in food services, kept the campus safe and beautiful, sometimes against fearful odds of hurricanes or late-night parties. And they also worked very hard to make everything perfect for your graduation. Next, to express our appreciation to those who have contributed so much to the success of this class in spiritual encouragement and worldly goods, may I ask that all parents, spouses, and those who stand in for the parents of the graduates, please stand. And now, as you remain standing, I would like to ask all grandparents, uncles and aunts, brothers and sisters, and other members of the families of the graduates, please rise so that we may salute you. I call attention in your program to the listing of the names of 24 members of the faculty of the university who have retired since commencement of 1996 or are retiring at the end of the present academic year. These retiring faculty have contributed significantly to the excellence of Duke University through their dedication as teachers, researchers, and practitioners. To each we owe a debt beyond measure, and I count it a privilege to recognize before this assembly their long careers of varied service to the university. At Duke, all students are asked, in recognition of our common experience in the universality of Duke University, to wear for their graduations the proud regalia which marks academic life. Last night, in a ceremony in Baldwin Auditorium, a number of our students received their Kinte stoles. I was also given one of these stoles at the close of the ceremony. And in concluding commencement 1997, I would like to invite any of those students who have brought their stoles for wearing later to wear them for the recessional to celebrate the diversity and richness of Duke University. And now, in conclusion, graduates of each of the schools of colleges and colleges of Duke, as you go forth from this place, remember what you have learned here. Recall the serene beauties of the campus and the moments of intellectual excitement, friendship, personal discovery, sorrow, and joy that you have experienced here as a shield and buckler in more troubled times. Know that you are always a part of this university, that you will always have it as part of your life and character. You go forth with our admiration, our encouragement, and our confidence in your ability to shape our future. Godspeed.
As we near the conclusion of this convocation, I wish to remind each of you of the special ceremonies of the several schools and the departments and programs of Trinity College, which follow these exercises. And I also wish for each of you a safe passage as you return to your homes. And now I invite you to stand and to join in the singing of the alma mater.